Welcome to the Marble Sports Worldwide Podcast, where we discuss and analyze your favorite marble sports. From JMR Marble League to I'll Go Do tournaments, we'll make sure you never miss the action. All marble sports, all the time, right here on the MSW Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Marble Sports Worldwide Podcast. My name is Brendan.
And I'm Commander Wolf.
Number 3. We are number 3. Voted, even. Number 3. Most, I guess, best, most entertaining, I don't know. Not alternative content. JMR-based content that's not JMR in the community of Marble Sports people that cares enough to be active in the Discord to see that vote was a possible thing to do. I'll take it. I'll take Podium. As said by Garrett from Dude Perfect, Podium is fine with me.
I'm really glad that we got that. I'm glad people enjoy. I was surprised that our show was on the poll at all. I've seen Brendan's name on the poll before, but never MSW itself, as far as I remember.
Why was my name on the poll?
I just felt honored.
What did my name fall under?
I think alternative marble content, something like that.
Just Brendan. Brendan is your content.
I don't know. I don't know, but
that's funny.
I'm honored that we got it too, but I am glad actually that Marble Earth won it, because they have easily done the most and contributed the most to the marble world, I would say. I actually probably would have been angry if we had gotten first place over them.
No, I will say the two that beat us out are two very, very deserving channels. Or organizations, whatever you want to call them. Marble Earth, and, after eating dinner with Stint multiple times, I love Stint by far. I love him by far. So, I mean, Stint, I'm so happy for Stint, because I guess he still heads the project, so it's very exciting. That his project won, and because his project actually engages the most members of the community, there's a lot of members of the community working on it. It's very engaging because so many people are working on it, so then so many people are reading it actively, and then those are the people who would even be there to vote for that poll because they're actively watching. They're actually they're actively in that Discord a lot, writing and whatever. So I think it makes sense, and I think he's deserving because he's put quite the project together with quite the amount of contributing factors. I don't know. We've been doing retrospectives sometimes on the show. We'll get back to that at some point, but they've been all really fun to read, and you've learned a lot about each of the teams from that. So congratulations, Stint. The second place, the Thesaurus, Thesaurus,
Dinosaurus?
Listen, whatever you want to call him. He makes videos, so makes sense to me that he would obviously peak above us as well, because he makes videos that are actually visually interesting. I mean, we pull things up on the Chrome, so it's fun for analysis here and there, but we're not editing down a video and everything. So congratulations to him on that. He does some pretty interesting. I've never watched his content, maybe one time, but I think it's pretty interesting. Usually talks about something with marbles and edits it nicely. Listen, I don't even know. Email in and tell me what you like about that channel if you watch it, because I actually personally don't really know what he does, but I know he edits videos together for content, so it makes sense. And yeah, just it's a good time to remind you, email in, mswpodcast@gmail.com. There's a lot to say. Come on, Marble ManiaX is groundbreaking in Marble. This is exactly what we needed in 2022, even though viewership for JMR continues to decline. Let's see, what note did I just hit there?
I don't know. It didn't even come through.
Decline there. That's what I said. Viewership declining. But yeah, email in mswpodcast@gmail.com. Talk about Marble ManiaX. Talk about your favorites and your least favorites of all these rankings from this Marble base voting rollies or whatever, the rollies. I guess the Grammys with the rollies.
I think that's what it is. Yeah,
it is pretty funny. That is true. The other thing I was thinking about is that every once in a while, when I just want to do this podcast or watch Marble Sports, I do realize how dumb this whole thing is. I really do. I'm wow, because Waff reminded me today, because he was what did you say? What did you say about straws or something?
We're the straw sports worldwide podcast or something.
Just like,
because you asked me what our podcast was.
Yeah, because I was being stupid, and then Waff gave an answer like that, and I'm like, wow, we are closer to like literal sports with like one hold long plastic tubes than sports like, I don't know, ultimate frisbee or whatever you watch on TV. I was actually listening to the football game today. It was a pretty good game. Ended in overtime, field goal, Chiefs Bengals, I think. It was a good game. But that being said, we are going off the Marble Sports is crazily off the rails, even though it's so awesome. So it's a fun reminder, I guess, every once in a while to be like, wow, this is dumb. This is a really dumb thing. But I mean, here I am doing another hour of talking about it. So obviously I am embracing the silliness to the max. And any of you guys listening and dinosaurusing, you're doing the same thing, embracing the silliness. So that's what we do here. We embrace the silliness. Mr. Waff is the pinnacle of that. But I mean, I'm bad at ending intros, so let's just go to the news. Unless Waff, you have anything unbelievable, like literally what you're about to say next must literally make me fall out of my seat and say that's bananas. Instead we'll just go to the news.
No, turns out we're all in the Matrix. No, I don't know. Let's go to the news. Hello, Marble Sports fans! I'm Commander Wolf here with the Marble Sports Worldwide News. We've got quite the interesting event to go over, so let's jump right into it. Event 4 of Marble ManiaX, Obstacle Run, featured a wide variety of obstacles and traps for the marbles to traverse. The track was covered in rubber bands and springs to bounce the marbles around, varying paths to separate the racers, snapping blocks that would launch them back, and in one instance even got a marble stuck, and even the dreaded fidget spinners. Fortunately, no marbles sustained any major injuries this time around, and the event came to an end with Leaf from Noxious Ivy in first, followed by Saucer from the Purple Rockets in second, and Pygmy from the Strixes in third. Only one event remains, and the Purple Rockets are holding such a dominant lead that only 3 other teams have a shot of surpassing them. It's sure to be an intense competition, so you'd better not miss it. That's all the news I have for you, so let's wrap it on up. I'm Commander Wolf. You are the best fans in the world. Let's kick it on back with the podcast.
We are back from the news, everybody. Thank you for, I guess, Waff for doing the news. Thanks, Waff.
No problem. Still waiting on someone to replace me. Or I'll just resign myself to my fate and remain the newsman forever. Might try doing an accent at some point to make it sound like a different person. I don't know.
Just try to be Johnny Marble. What the heck happened to him? I don't know, dude. Died, man. He was like John Wood, but he lasted like 100 episodes. Shit. Like, that was nuts how long it lasted. Like, I would have and he's talked and he said like how this is a big deal for him. So you would have think he would have been like, all right, guys, listen, I just don't want to do it no more. Like, because he was here for, like, this was not something that was light for him. Like, he was here, like, I was I'm a sophomore in college. I was in high school. I was not even a senior in high school when he started doing this for us. On God, that's actually nuts to say. I'm right now 2nd year in college, past the first semester.
Jeez.
I was a junior in high school. In the 2nd semester, junior in high school, when Johnny Marble started being with us. He didn't leave until like the end of this semester, end of like the first semester of my sophomore year of college. That's like a whole lifetime difference stat. Which is really, really crazy. So I don't know how he just, like, I guess his was like, all right, I'm just not going to do it anymore.
Like, I could tell he was definitely losing interest. He wasn't like as responsive to messages. He was later for sending stuff in, so I could tell like either he's losing interest in Marble stuff or just in voice acting in general. But like I kind of saw it coming. I just didn't think he would dip.
Yeah, I thought it would just be like, hey, but I just like I gotta move on. I have other stuff in my life, and I've been like, cool, fine. You served us for a long time. That's crazy. That
I
being
didn't
said,
expect, no pay either. Like just doing it for the fun of it.
yeah, he didn't even ask for it. Like, anyway, we're gonna hit some emails, a couple emails or so, and then we'll get to the bulk of the episode. All right, so we just have one from Adu, so we'll see what he's got to say. He says, MX Marble ManiaX, invent for impressions. Adu, thanks for writing in. MSW Podcast at gmail.com. You can write in. You can say anything, like literally anything. Just say like meow, and then that will make the email second longer. Is all I'm trying to say. Here we go. He says, "This is an event I could truly enjoy the action and the concept without much worries, and it's a nice setup. Maybe because no premiere. He says, this is basically an elimination race turned to the max. Nothing innovative, despite the hazards on the track, but it's a nice event. The variety of obstacles, rubber bands, fidget spinners, rat traps at the end allow for a number of different paths, especially in this large field. It's about finding the best line. I actually think the races had a calm, slow pace. Great to see an introduction of the course and its features in the first minute, something that wasn't so clear in past events. Also, how do you feel about the all-new teams taking the top 4 in the standings?" Thanks to do for writing in. I have mixed feelings on this event. We're going to talk about this event in like a minute, literally now. So I see what you're saying. I mean, like even in your impression. Well, I guess your impression, so not necessarily negative or positive, but yeah, like some of your impressions just describe an event that's really just whatever. Like, I mean, coming after the best current event in Marble Sports, just hands down, funnel spin max battle, with the funnel ram, whatever you want to call it, funnel collision. That is the best event in Marble Sports. Yeah. To then this was not very good, but not terrible. So it's just kind of, we're going to have to just kind of break down the pros and cons of the event and like what we liked and didn't like. It's the best way to go. But I see a lot of your impressions are similar to what I had. But your impressions, again, don't seem to lean one way or the other, which is kind of, again, how I feel. Top 4 in the standings being all new teams, that makes me excited. I love, well, the Strixes are my favorite team of this bunch. Okay, I like the Pinkies. But I like the Pinkies because they suck and I feel bad for them, not because I'm a huge Pinkies fan. I just kind of want to see them, like, you know, accidentally win a couple times. But I personally am a big fan of the Strixes. I don't like the Purple Rockets at all, but again, I do like the new teams. I like Noxious Ivy. Constrictors are kind of cool, and they're all in there, and they're all competing, and that's good news. If you see those 4 teams competing right now, I mean, they're going to fit right in with Marble League. I could see, like, the Strixes or Noxious Ivy, like, coming in middle of the pack this year if they were to to qualify for Marble League. At least, like, above 12th, right? I could see it. Couldn't you guys see it? Could you see Noxious Ivy kind of slip in and get, like, top 6 in 5-meter sprint, maybe, like, a top 8 in funnel endurance, maybe the Strixes are very core controlled team, so I could see them doing well in balancing. I mean, there's a lot of good potential in the new teams that have come out, and I've warmed up to them. Besides the Purple Rockets, I've warmed up to them quite a bit. So, personally, good news for me. And to see them all kind of dominating that top spots right now, and the fact that it's close. I guess we go into the last event, right? The last event is coming.
Mm-hmm. Yep, the last one.
That's really exciting. Waf, do you want to speak to any of that?
Yeah, no, like, I actually think I'm glad that it is the new teams who are dominating, because, like, it's a new type of event, and it makes sense that, like, they would be the ones to represent that success, instead of, like, oh, the old favorites coming in and stealing the show again. So, like, I actually kind of like that it's the newer teams that are showing their expertise for these extreme events. In regards to, I lost the thought there so hard. Jeez. Wow. How did I don't know. Dude, it just went woo. It's gone.
Well, while you're recollecting it, I'm gonna point out a couple things. Number one, Marble ManiaX is only 5 events. Like, I know I just said that, but let's remember that.
I found it. I found it. I caught it. Okay.
Okay.
So the interesting thing for me is, like, this is like, it wasn't until the end of this event that I finally noticed like what was going on in the overall standings, like, and how much the Purple Rockets were dominating. Like, maybe it's because I don't have my, like, maybe it's because I don't have any like favorite teams that I'm really rooting for and like really watching closely. But like, I've just been enjoying it event to event. Haven't really cared much about overalls. Like, I've just been like taking it as it comes, and I'm not really sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I think it's, well, everybody looks at an event differently. So looks at a new tournament differently. So for us as Marble Sports Podcast, because I feel like I actually agree with you, I didn't really notice, like, after this event, I saw standings. I was like, wow, Purple Rockets, crazy. That's when I noticed that. I think for us as podcasters, like, when we like weekly break down what happened, we're going to look a lot at the event. We're going to be like, do I like this event? Should other people like this event? What could they be improved on in the event? You know, we're going to look at, you know, what are the teams that we know doing? Can I speak to any of that? Like the Pinkies. Pinkies started very well in the elimination race and kind of petered out in the last few races. I think they came third or fourth. They kind of struggled, but they didn't do bad, and they had a strong aggression to themselves during the elimination race early on, and you could see that they were always they never had a passive run. You know, they were always moving around, bumping into everything, just trying to force their way down, collision to other marbles, high volume. So I noticed that about the Pinkies. I'm noticing these things. I'm noticing the event. I'm noticing the different events and what's happening. And I kind of just slipped on thinking about the Purple Rockets and where they're standing because they're a new team. So they're a new team that I'm aware of, but like there's not enough data for them to for me to kind of be looking at them in a more analytical position. Muff, go ahead for a sec. I gotta.
Yeah, no, it's so strange. Like, especially like normally we're very good about like analyzing like the goings on of things, like how things are ending up. But like I was just so blindsided. Like the Purple Rockets were really leading the charge, and like you would think that they would stick out more because like they're a lore team, a team that we've kind of technically known about for a while, and fans have been. And it's a purple team that people have been wanting in this series for a long time, and yet for some reason, for whatever reason, I just haven't like actually noticed them. And Sergey actually just made a good point in our chat. They haven't won an event yet, and that's probably why we haven't noticed them. Is like they haven't been, like they get like second places a whole lot, but they haven't been the top of the podium, so they don't stick out to us as much.
I'm going to pull up the standings so we can take a closer look at them. In the meantime, first of all, that is interesting. The Purple Rockets have not really won an event. I think we talk a lot about consistency. Now, I guess this goes against my current theory, because my theory kind of shifts all the time about what's important. You know, what is the most important? Because I mean, everything has an edge. Okay, so for a while I was saying consistency is the most important. I'd rather a 5th place cross the board than a 2 gold, 2 last place. My opinion changed on that in the last couple Marble Leagues or last couple tournaments, where I was like, you know what? Especially after the Snowballs got like last place and then 2 golds and then like very easily qualified. I was like, golds, you need golds. And then close second to golds is consistency. And so this one kind of challenges that, considering that the Purple Rockets have not really... Let's see where they are. Wait, I'm trying to find the tournament standings. Purple Rockets have 3 silver medals. 3 silver medals! Come on, man. That's like a lot of silver. But then again, I would say to that, we only have 5 events here. In the context of Marble League, where we have 16 events, you have to have golds. You have to have golds to win. You can't not win. I mean, you could if you got second every single time, but you have 16 events. So we have to base things off the relative most likely possibilities. You need golds. Golds are most important than consistency. I would say in a shorter event like this, when we have 5 events for some reason, I was hoping for at least 6 or 8. I think consistency might win out. I mean, I think we see it here. Data shows it right here. Purple Rockets are by far in the lead. With 3 silver medals. That is kind of the pinnacle of consistency, though, because when I say consistency, most people's minds are going to go to, a bunch of bronzes and silvers, a bunch of top 5 finishes, not really 3 silver specifically. So they kind of push to the exception. But I will say, my theory now stands that in lower amounts of events, shorter tournaments, consistency is top. And in longer tournaments, you must have golds. I'm telling you, you must have golds if you want to win. So I guess that's where my theory sits now based on this data. Because even like based on I'm trying to get a sense. Wait, why does it say? That's really weird.
Yeah.
And event 1 it says 7 points, but the other two.
Yeah,
It says
I
8.
was gonna bring that up. I want to know like if someone can specify that for me too, because like
Weird.
I think what may have happened was like there was the tie, like the 3-way tie, but like only second place got reduced points, but first place still got the max. Why is
that was. I think it reduced because it was for the tie. I don't know. Someone would have to kind of explain that to me about.
Because I thought they did a tiebreaker through based on like what their highest, like their number of highest target landings were. So like they broke the tie officially. At least I thought they did. And why is it that second place is the one that got reduced points? Because I thought it was a 3-way tie for first, right? Was it? Am I wrong?
I'm not sure.
Like I could have sworn that's what it was.
I would need someone to kind of let me know about that. Here's what I'll say. Just to kind of confirm my point here. I don't know about the 7. Someone needs to write in about the 7. I'm going to reiterate that. Someone please tell me about the 7. Edu, come on. Edu is in the live chat. Come on, Edu. If you take events 2 and 4, which are 2 silver medals for the Purple Rockets, and you bump both of them down to bronze medals, the Purple Rockets are still in the lead. Still in first place over all the 8 teams. So I think... just let me finish this thought. So I think this is another confirmation of what I'm saying, is that in the shorter tournaments, you need a level of consistency. Because if the Purple Rockets are still in the lead, if they reduce both of their silvers to bronzes, I mean, that just kind of shows it. So I'm pointing that out.
I'll just redo my thought then. So Sergey pointed out that the Rockets and the Blackjacks, they not only tied in points, but they also tied in their landing positions. So that's why the score they both got second, and why the score was split the way it was.
So,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So we addressed the Purple Rockets. We addressed consistency. You need gold in Marble League still. I don't think it's viable to say. It is easier and more worth going for, more like strategical, to try to be the team that gets silver and bronze every single event in Marble League than to say, okay, let's get a couple golds and then kind of sit in the top half of the pack for the rest of it. Especially since even the top teams in Marble League, the top teams have a couple events where they get like last place. So these Savage Speeders show that. So I think that's important to recognize that there's different theories surrounding each different type of event. So that being said, Purple Rockets events, whatever. The next event is called Super Collision, which I think is a stupid name, if I'm honest.
Wait, what?
I mean, the event, that's what it says on the Jealous Marble Runs YouTube. That makes me upset. That just sounds so stupid. Because wow, we have Collision. Let's make it more extreme. Super Collision. I mean, it sounds just bad.
And also, we already had Funnel Collision, so we've already had a Collision style event. So to kind of redo that again is, is redundant. It's not as creative. But that might surprise us. Maybe they'll do something crazy.
I think whatever's going to happen is going to be creative, since the expectations have been met and exceeded in Marble ManiaX, except for Event 4. But I just don't like the name and how they couldn't come up with something different for. I mean, come on. I mean, you guys spend all of your time, Gel, making this channel. You don't spend your time's not really spent on anything else. You could maybe spend 10 minutes coming up with a better name than Super Collision. Come on, man.
Although again,
that's just my opinion.
If Dion is the one doing more on this series, specifically the Navy, he was in charge of the name this time around.
Neither here nor there. You could take 10 minutes on that. I mean, sit in bed while you're trying to fall asleep and be like, all right, what would be better than just adding a superlative to an event we already have? Maybe Extreme Collision? No, I've already done that.
So got a comment from Yell's Marble Runs about the fidget spinner ban, and they are only banned from the Marble League, and he even put in quotes Marble Olympics. So they addressed the name. And
That's
then
funny.
other major events like Marble Rally, Marble 1. However, in Marble ManiaX, the event safety rules are different.
Safety rules are different. That's great. That's so good.
And Super
I'm
Collision-
pulling this freaking message up. Look
Yeah.
at this on the Chrome.
And Super Collision will have fidget spinners too, which is that's horrifying. Because like on this, so, like we haven't really gotten too much into what this event was like, but like the fidget spinners, they were far enough down the path most of the time that they could slow down before the marbles actually reached them, so they're not flying around at high enough speeds to really crack, you know. But like in this, if it's gonna be like the normal collision field, they're gonna be spinning fast and they're gonna be pretty close together. So I am now actually concerned.
I am not. I think it's totally fine. I think that, I mean, as funny as it is to actually hear the sentence, the event safety rules are different from Marble ManiaX, this fake pretend world we've built, as opposed to the other fake pretend world of Marble League. It's funny to hear that sentence. I think that's valid. Marble ManiaX is extreme marble sports. Extreme sports in life have different safety rules than regular sports. You can do different things. The stakes are actually higher. People can get paralyzed and injured much easier in those things. And we're aware of that and still do it. So I think that, I mean, if you want to actually if you want to be consistent in the role play of Marble World, we have to assume that if marbles are really going to be thinking and acting like human beings, that there will be marbles like these new teams. Remember, we're not like having Oceanics in here. We have a few old teams, but we have some new teams. There will be marbles that will be like, you know what? We want to do the extreme things. We want to do the things that, injured, Princess Team Momo, I mean, like, we want to get after that. I love you, Waff, but Momo, come on.
Hey, they did really good in this last Marble League.
They did. Waff, I really am pulling for one day you to be a happy man. I'm happy for Meliello,
I've never been happy. Okay,
no, never, except for if Momo wins. But I just want to point out that sentence does have validity and is accurate to how a full world of marbles would run if they acted like we would act. There is going to be some who be like, you know what, I'm fine with the extreme sports. I understand there's more injury risk. That's okay to me. In Marble League, it makes sense for them to ban it because Marble League is a very formal kind of event. Marble League is very, very particular in the way it's executed. Marble League is based on a worldwide appreciation of marble athletics. It emphasizes safety. It emphasizes formality and like just cleanliness in a weird way. Everything's like white. So that makes sense. But Marble ManiaX, where everything's kind of like sand and beer, like, I mean, it's it makes sense that those rules would be different, and so something with a fidget spinner would be okay. So I just want to point out that I'm not against it, even though, yes, of course, it's a little bit more dangerous. And yeah, that's the only time I've ever seen a legitimate injury to a marble where actually like there's pieces of the marble removed.
Yeah.
And listen, chips in a marble don't grow back like tails on a lizard. So write that down, Mr. Waff.
I knew it immediately. That was a total write it down moment.
That's 100% a write it down. You just write it down. Just do it.
What was cracks in a marble don't regrow like tails on a lizard?
Chips in a marble don't regrow like tails on a lizard. Yeah, like, I mean, like, come on, man. I mean, if that's not a write it down, there is no write it downs. But I that's my opinion on it. People are going to disagree. I mean, MSW Podcast is gmail.com if you disagree, but I feel like that's a valid way to address it. Yeah. That being said, I think we've covered probably everything that surrounds the event here. Of course, I guess if we want to just put this out there, I mean, after the Super Collision, we're obviously going to be hit with all events. They always like to make one video for all events, but I actually like. I will say, yeah, this is totally going an hour. We haven't even gotten to the event yet. Just putting it out there, Waff. I will say I used to not like the all events thing because I was like, that's just filler content. You're like, I can't get another thing out in the next week, so just take everything you've watched from the past 2 months and just put it in one video. But I really like them because I realize, like, I try to think about what other people might receive them. Other people who might want to watch this fully through with their family, or watch this fully through with friends, or just kind of like enjoy the full thing. It's kind of nice to have it all in one video. It flows through and you just sit down, put it on, and you enjoy it like a 3-hour movie kind of thing. So I appreciate that. They have a Marble Rally practice race, which doesn't make any sense because it's then followed by Marbula 1 Season 3 in the spring. But I guess whatever you want. Whatever you want to do there, JMR.
You just made me think about something interesting. On Bilibili, which is like Chinese YouTube, like they still have the original version of of the first event with the old halftime show. But when they do the compilation video, more than likely it'll be just the same video for both of them. So it'll have the new halftime show. So I get the feeling that the Chinese fans are gonna watch that and be very confused. Like, wait a minute, why is the music different? What happened? This is the same.
It will be confusing. Oh man. Yeah, I wonder how much they know. I wonder if they're like, they're updated on that. Maybe not. So they're gonna be like, this is weird. This is not the music I remember. Nevertheless, I hopefully for Marble 1 Season 3, I think we might do another crossover fantasy pick with the Big Gets Big Cake the podcast there. Turn. Rangers. I gotta ask him to send me the picture of me and him. I think he might have. That was a great day, that meet. I'm so happy I got to meet him. Regardless. So yeah, a lot coming up Marble Sports wise. I'm glad they're kind of getting rolling right into Marbula 1, probably early March, and then of course Marble League will be coming midsummer. So again, that's my favorite part of the year. So I can't wait till that starts to bloom a little bit. So we got some qualifiers coming up. We'll have to dig back into the stats. We'll have to prepare the fantasy, which we did not do very well on last time. We did okay. I got like 120 or something. Like
I started out so strong, and then it was just like,
yeah. Momo was like, "All right, we're done." Like halfway through, that's the best we do. Anyway, that's kind of the housekeeping of Marble Sports this week. Let's cover the main event, and because I have such mixed feelings. I guess I want to check in with you real quick. Do you have mixed feelings on this event, or are you very strong on this one?
The more I've heard talk about it, my feelings have been a little bit more mixed, but I think for the most part, I would say I enjoyed this. I'm like, it feels like basically an extreme version of elimination race, but it also doesn't feel like, as Iju pointed out in his email, it doesn't feel like it's as fast paced. So I'm not sure if I necessarily like. I don't necessarily know if I like it more than elimination race, but I also don't think it's bad for it. I think it's different. It stands out on its own because of that. Like, I found myself having fun watching it on the course. I thought it was an interesting event. Maybe.
Don't give a rating yet.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
Don't give a rating yet, because this is what I want to do. Now that you seem to be confused. We're gonna do it in different type of analysis. I just wanted to make sure Waff didn't have 100% strong opinion yet.
Okay.
What we're gonna do is we're gonna start first by addressing the pros of this event.
Okay.
Then we're gonna address the cons of this event, just because I want to put all that information out there, and then we'll decide our final out of 10 ratings. Because part of me wants to give this a 1 out of 10. Part of me wants to give this a 7 out of 10. So we're gonna have to talk. So I think it's best to start positive. So let's start with pros. Waff, maybe I'll let you kind of talk a little bit first. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. So Waff, start off with some pros. Only pros, no cons. Pros about this marble obstacle chat.
All right, pros. The variety of traps and obstacles is really cool and a lot of fun. The fact that you could actually it was designed that you could a marble could get stuck behind the rubber bands. One of the as mouse traps, as Iju called it, launched. I think it was the one of the was it the pinkies or something. They got stuck behind one of the rubber band barriers. And I even noticed in the final race between Noxious Ivy and the Purple Rockets, I believe it was. Noxious Ivy actually went inside of one of the triangle barriers past rubber bands, but the rubber band managed to launch it back out. It was there was so much room for error and potential faults that could happen, and that it definitely made it a very interesting event to watch. It was fun seeing the Pinkies basically disappear from view when they get launched because I couldn't see where they were. They blended in.
I remember that. Yeah, they just kind of disappeared.
But yeah, that's probably my biggest positive. Just there's so much variety and a lot of danger in almost every move you make, just because of how flimsy some of the rubber bands are by design.
Okay, yeah, I can agree with that. My biggest pro, and this is a very analytical way to say this, but my biggest pro is definitely that the assembly of objects on this obstacle run, the assembly of the rubber bands, the different choices and positioning of the tracks, the rubber bands amount versus the traps versus the freaking bells, for God's sake, the spinners, the assembly and placement of all these different attributes.
It's so clean.
Was done in a way that keeps the races close.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Literally, as I'm saying this, you're seeing on the chrome most of the marbles crossing at about the same time. I think that's really funny how that happened right there.
Mm-hmm.
And this happened in pretty much every race. Every race was relatively close to most degree of especially the marbles in the lead. And that for me is a pro because and I don't want to address too much con here, but it can be challenging with a event of this sort to assemble it so that the races actually end up close. And so the marbles are all taking different paths, but they still kind of get to the bottom around the similar time. So that's a pro. I think another pro for me is the inclusion of this middle section that has the little tube where you can skip some parts,
yes.
The Marbula 1 track, because what that did is kind of, it created space. You need to create space in an event like this. If you're going to make something that has a PLINKO feel to it, you must have space in the event. Because if the whole thing is just very tightly packed nails and rubber bands, then it just gets very repetitive, and then marbles start to loop. It's almost like a GIF at some point. You're just in the same. It's like you feel like you're in the same place the whole time. So the use of the space when there's with the traps, the space with the fidget spinners at the end, the traps instead of just more of the rubber bands, that did a lot for creating for keeping this event close and fresh.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Also, I keep trying to figure out how those small, I guess the bearings in that middle trap section are smaller than the marble, so they managed to go underneath the rubber band barrier while.
Yeah, the little ones do.
I love how clean this board is. They've always had done good with presentation, but I don't think I've ever seen a clean, well put together PLINKO board and marble stuff. It's always really rough around the edges. It looks very thrown together. This is just, it's so clean. It is
very clean. I agree. I agree. It just looks. It really is JM. It's really, if you said to JMR, all those terrible PLINKO events all those channels do, you try to do that. This is really what is that,
mm-hmm.
And they did a decent job. They made an event that, whether you love this or not, it makes sense. It can make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And again, a couple other pros. I just like the use of the different obstacles. I like how they're there. They give things for Greg to talk about. Mm-hmm. Even the changing it up between the springs and the rubber bands, because you bounce them off differently. You bounce off a spring and a rubber band completely differently.
Right.
It's subtle, but it's true. It's totally true. And I don't know. It was very. They had the right kind of amount of each different type of attribute, I would say. I think maybe a little bit overdone on the rubber bands. They probably should have had a couple more traps or something, or some more ball bearings or something like that. But otherwise, it was good.
And they got stuck right there in the video just now.
Yeah. and that's cool too. They can get stuck under the rubber band if you just happen to have that. That adds a lot to it. It was Shining Swarm.
Yeah. I also love how the marbles, when they go behind the prisms, it looks visually appealing. And something I noticed as you were talking a little bit earlier, it was the footage was on the middle section. The way that the multiple different branching paths, different styles, reminded me so much of MSPN's Marble Mayhem, the dropper, the final event from every season. How it starts off at the top with a bit of PLINKO, and then there's the varying different paths with different advantages. And I just got such a MSPN old school Algadoo vibe from that just now.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because Algadoo does kind of resort a little bit more towards PLINKO stuff here and there, so it does does have that reminiscence. Another pro, the halftime show was cool. I think I love them. I just love them. It reminds me of football a little bit because halftime show, which is really nice because football is a very popular American sport and a very popular sport around the world. And it's just kind of like, it brings an element of that. You're like, wow.
Oh, geez, that section right there, though, that was a bit almost seizure-inducing for some people, I imagine.
Yeah, well, I mean...
it wasn't too fast, but still, like...
That's how lights be.
It hurts your eyes, at least because of how bright it is, at least.
But I will say, there's something subtle here, because if I said to you back in 2019 or 2020, and I was like, all right, if I met someone, and he was like, okay, I'm not... The only sport I watch is football. I love football. That's it. And if I'm not watching football, I'm not involved in sports. And then I said, well, this is not true about me, but let's say I said, I'm the same way, but only with marbles sports. I actually do like football. But if that conversation occurs, okay, back in 2020 and before, that's where it ends. Because it's like, there's nothing possibly similar between the two things. Really, there is nothing similar between the two things. Don't even try. I mean, you can try, but if you email in and say that, I will probably say I disagree. But you're welcome to. Now, and it is in a subtle way, but now, like, in that conversation, I could be like, well, yeah, the football halftime shows, they remake those types of things in marble sports. And then people who actually really like the halftime show, which those people are weird, but if you do like the halftime show from the football, then you'd be like, oh, wow, cool. I wonder how they redo that. And that's just like, I guess it adds a connection between people who are like strictly in regular sports, especially if it's like football, to some marble sports. Because you're like, wow, what do you mean marble sports does halftime shows? And then you see it and you're like, wow, this is insane. Look at these lights. This looks like a football halftime show, but on YouTube, and so it just, it's a subtle, but it is a there connection, and that's the beginning, hopefully, of more and more little connections that will be able to be made between real sports and marble sports. So that's a big pro in general for Marble ManiaX. But I don't know. Those are my pros. Waff, any more pros before we get negative there?
I don't have any more pros. I think we can move on to the cons.
All right, cons. I'm going to start with the cons.
Okay.
This is a PLINKO event. I really should just stop there and end the con section there, because that really encompasses everything that I could possibly say con-wise. I mean, this is a PLINKO event. I hate PLINKO events. I hate PLINKO. I literally hate PLINKO. And it doesn't work in marble sports. It never works in marble sports. It is the worst idea if you're going to make marble sports. If you make marble sports and one of your ideas is make a PLINKO, then scrap it and come up with any other idea. Literally do roulette wheel from Algodoo instead of PLINKO.
No,
so,
no,
doesn't like that.
I will. Okay, at the very least, I would say the PLINKO in Marble Mayhem was truly exciting, especially in the season 2 finale.
I disagree with that, but
that was
I don't like
that was
PLINKO.
so intense for me. All right, like part of it was me just being a big Dragon's Breath friend, but like how close that finale was, like between Thanos and Dragon's Breath, like how it was so undetermined they had to go to a tiebreaker round. Like that was all because of how the PLINKO board was just how it works. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like PLINKO can be fun. I'll just say that it can be fun.
Anyway, but okay, fair enough. But I will say, in general, and especially when it's like outside of Algodoo, PLINKO is a bad idea. So I was expecting a 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10 when I saw the thumbnail for this event. I was like, holy crap! Please don't tell me the whole thing is just goddamn rubber bands. I'm a little happier that I saw some other traps and stuff. But I mean, it's PLINKO, and coming off the back of Funnel Collision, which again is the best event in Marble League, better than Collision and Rafting by far. It's kind of a letdown. It's harder to con this one because this one at least made the thing an elimination race, and even if it's PLINKO, the presence of an elimination race where you're kind of eliminating one by one is probably the most suspenseful way to have an event of sports in general. I personally, my favorite form of event style in the context of like pretty much any sport or event is elimination, where you, it's like, because you always like, you always feel that you always are having a chance because you're like, only one person's going from this round. Only the worst of this round goes. And so even if you're not doing very well, you can still kind of pull through to the next round, and maybe things will turn around in that next round. You don't even know that. And it's so unpredictable with elimination style. So that kind of does pull this event away from a terrible event. But yeah, it's PLINKO. So that's going to knock a lot of points just because I'm just not a big fan of PLINKO. And it did move a little slow. I will say the some of the rubber band parts and some of the races, if I take away just that general, I guess, ADD suspense I get when it's an elimination race, there was a lot of just bouncing back and forth in the rubber bands. Marbles just kind of stalling. And compared to something like, I don't know, this extreme diving or the bowling, I mean, come on. It's just not the same as those events. So those are cons for me. I would say again, cons for me, I guess not including enough variation. I feel like they could have added a couple more things that weren't rubber band based. I don't think the base of this event should have been rubber band lines, and then let's sprinkle some things in there. I think it should have been a whole actual obstacle course. The name of this event was Obstacle Course, not Elimination PLINKO. So if I'm in an obstacle course, even if you're doing an elimination race instead of like a time trial or a 1x1, 2v2, whatever, which is usually how an obstacle course would be run, I'm expecting something that has different sections where it's very clear the change between things, forces you to do more than just the rubber bands. Because even though all the traps were there, you could, in theory, have a run where you just touch the rubber bands and avoid all the traps. And some marbles did have that run. So that is a con for me. If you're going to call it obstacle course, if you're not going to call it elimination extreme or PLINKO or whatever, then you need to have some forced variation that marbles must go through. Like marbles must transition onto Marble 1 track at some point. Marbles must hit bells and fidget spinners as opposed to rubber bands at some point. Marbles must have to race through tubes as opposed to just through the rubber band at some point. And those are easy fixes. You could split the track in half with the rubber bands and the freaking springs and just have like a section in between that's 3 seconds long where there's a bunch of different tubes of different lengths you'll have to go through, and that makes it interesting because then you have to pick the right tube and you actually have a racing section that you have to go through. You have to change terrain. You have to do something different. Then maybe when you come out of that section, you have the rubber bands, you have the tubes, maybe you come into something that has a lot of spinners and bells or whatever, and then you go into something that, you know, is a little bit of Marble 1. Then you have a course that's more defined on obstacles that you have to assess as opposed to just, I'm just going to bounce back and forth with rubber bands. Maybe I'll get lucky and hit the tubes. So that will be a con for me. Again, it's picky, but we're the MSW episode 121. Come on, what do you want? It is going to be what it's going to be. I am picky about marble sports. I've talked about marble sports. And this is 100% true, I have said more words in relation to marble sports probably than any other human being on this planet besides maybe Jell and Dion. That's literally probably true. So honestly, I'm totally going to get a little picky on this. But the nomenclature, if you want to say, of this event compared to what we actually got, that could be a con for me. Waff, over to you.
I mean, that's fair. Like, it definitely could, like, it does feel more like PLINKO than an actual obstacle course, and having varied terrains would definitely be more exciting. For me, some cons, that would be, one of them is, like, some of the obstacles, like, I think especially the spinning gate from Marble Rally basically did almost nothing. And I get it's downhill, so gravity makes
Agreed.
Makes it flat,
Agreed.
makes it vertical, and I get that, but, like, maybe there's a way they could have constructed it to where it doesn't spin and phase that same direction all the time. I was just expecting it to spin more and, like, slap marbles around, you know? And I had another con. I just don't remember. Nah, dang it. Oh my gosh. It was actually that. There you go. It was the halftime show. I feel like it had less stop motion than some of the other ones, and that made it feel very dull. Like looking at like you're just because you're just watching a light show happen on top of stagnant marbles are just
fair. That's fair.
And I think
that's really, you want to talk about picky.
That is
picky.
That is the most nitpicky thing. Like something that is very just aesthetic wise, has nothing to do with the event itself, and is also like not even, and it's also like just not even the main focus of the actual thing. But like, like if part of what I loved about the first halftime show in the first one was like there was a lot of stop motion, like marbles moving around, dancing to it, like in line at tables, like making like they're talking to each other, like, and that adds to that immersion and that role play. Is like these are like, that's what I loved about it so much. It's like, oh, it's like making him feel like it's alive, that there's actually sentient beings watching a sport. Whereas this is just like, hey, look at the cool light show and listen to our cool music. It's like, I mean, it's great and all, but that's not the point of the half. At least to me, that's not what the point of the like to spin in records or whatever. That's definitely the point of the halftime show, just to advertise their music. But for us, the people who this kind is being made for, the point was to increase the immersion of like this marble world. And I feel like the halftime shows, especially this one, like have not had enough stop motion and stuff to really make it feel that way.
That's a fair con.
It's a commercial, basically. That's all it is, almost at this point.
It is true about that. And I don't know. I think in general, they can always work to improve that outside thing. Like, I would love to see, even though it's subtle and it passes quickly on camera, I would love to see some engineering development that increases that in the stands. There's just some marbles moving around, there's some marbles spinning, something subtle where it just adds more. I'd love to be the engineer behind designing that I'm studying engineering. But of course, that would be a very hard niche job to get. And JMR would have to do better than 30,000, 40,000 a video. Just saying. But being said, yeah, those are totally fair cons. I would also agree with those. That arrow was not very impactful. They needed to have it spin on its own. And they needed to have it spin slowly on its own, but still be able to speed up based on impact from other marbles, but have a base slow speed where it's actually spinning, so it actually could not be only just pointed down. Or they needed to do something where they held it up so it's horizontal on one end, but they'll only be able to be hit but from one end, so it'd be kind of weird, but they could have figured it out, I guess.
Yeah, a motor
not
system.
A huge deal, but it's true.
Easy. Like a small
motor
servo.
System, yeah. Yeah, servos are free. I've used servos. And
like another problem is like, as scary as the fidget spinners are, and like I'm semi-glad that the ones near the bottom slow down. Like, the fact of the matter is, they oftentimes some of the ones near the bottom, they slow down enough to where they basically were almost not spinning by the time the first marble reached them. At which point they're still technically serving as an obstacle because it's changing the direction that they're going off of it, but it's not launching them like they were probably designed and intended to. And like that's the problem is they're hand spun. Obviously, there's hand spun, and then they let them go. But like they make, I don't know how you would motorize it. I think there's a way you could definitely do it, but like if you're gonna have the fidget spinners, they gotta as dangerous as they are, and how if you're gonna do it, commit to it. Like make a way to where they're actually actively spinning and not just stopping or slowing down by the time they get there.
Fair. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. You brought some really interesting cons. I like your cons.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to point that out. But yeah, those are, and that's valid. And I think it's really interesting in this particular event how the cons and pros section were of equal volume. Like we really had pros, but we really had cons, and that makes this a really interesting event to assess. But I mean, we gotta rate it. We always have to rate it out of 10. That's our little marble guy thing. So this is a tough one. I will say, the elimination race always adds to it. The particular style they used this time was very, like they used in Marble League. It's just captivating because I love that one gets eliminated per round. It's my favorite way to do it.
Right.
So I gotta say, man, listen, I just want to remind you guys the ratings of the other three events. I think it was literally 9, 10, 10. No, it was
8?
No, it was 9. Oh, it might have been 8. It might be 8, 9, 10. Someone would have to actually check me on that. Because, it was 8, 9, 10. 8, 9, 10. 8, 9, 10 on the first 3.
Maybe we should make a
spreadsheet
for this.
Those are big numbers. We should have a spreadsheet for this and then compare. We'll have to put it together. 8, 9, 10. So that's the bar. The bar of the previous event is 10. 10 is a big number. That's 10 out of 10. It's like it's infinity percent. Like, it's crazy how big that is. It's hard to get a 10 out of 10 from Marble Guy, especially someone who's been analyzing and critiquing for so long. But that's so for this one. I'd give this a 3 or a 4, but because of the elimination race factor and the closeness of the races, I have to fall on a 6. It just was actually interesting for me to watch. I just enjoyed it. I liked the closeness of the races. I liked that it was like, I love the style of the structuring of the tournament. So it was just good. It was good in that regard. It kept me engaged. If it was run not like that, if it was run like heat wise or something like that, or like all 8 marbles just go down every time and placements are collected, points are collected, then this would be okay. If it was run like that with all 8 marbles and then you just collect points for like 5 rounds, then there would be a total 3 and it would suck. But because of the elimination race, that doubles the score to 6. Because that structure of it itself, dude, literally, you could run like 500 marbles. No, not 500. You could run 50 marbles down a straight track, 20 meters long. But if you run an elimination style where you eliminate one at a time, I'm going to be totally hooked, even though that's a very shitty way to run a marble sports event. Because I'll pick a couple and be like, all right, they just have to not be the worst on the table. And like, I'll see them barely make it sometimes, then be in first others. And that gets me. So I'll give it a 6. Wincing at that, but it's got to get what it's going to get. And if you're going to make another PLINKO base event, you gotta add some more sections so it feels more like an obstacle run. You gotta keep it like, this could be a 10 out of 10 if they really sectioned it off and you only had one rubber band section and then something towards the end. And really, this could be like a good 8 out of 10. But again, I'm going to settle on 6. I think it's fair. I think that's more than fair.
Yeah, no, that sounds about right. I love this pros con thing. Maybe we should do that for all the events going forward. But like, I was
actually thinking that too, and I was like, if WAF says it, I think we'll do that. Yeah, I think if WAF brings this up to me, I think we'll do that. And lo and behold, what the frick just happened? WAF brought it up to me.
Great minds think alike. But,
yeah, so remind me of that next time.
Definitely. I think 6 out of 10 is also my rating. Like, because like it's like, I think people like think 6 out of 10 is a lot worse than it actually is. Like 6 is like, I would say is a good. It's like, it's good, but it's nothing.
Yeah, 5 is dead average. 5 is literally like,
it's like
you did nothing bad, but you did nothing good. Like,
yeah,
if you get a 6, you're doing okay.
Like 5 is middle between. It's halfway to near perfection. So like what like how like so 6 cannot be a bad thing. Like it's good. Like it is. I think it was enjoyable. It's just not as good as it probably could be. It's not a fully realized concept, and it also admittedly does have the unfortunate fate of following a very solid event. And like that applies to like a lot of things. Like I remember in band back in high school, like in your solo, you better hope that you weren't the person who came before you wasn't absolutely amazing, because then they're gonna compare you to that person. And like,
it's true. It's subconscious. You can't control it.
Right. Exactly. And so like I maybe didn't enjoy this event as much as I probably could have if it wasn't just because I enjoyed Funnel Collision so dang much. And that is just the unfortunate aspect of it all.
Yeah. Oh, just another note. We're at 50 minutes, by the way, so we'll definitely be. I think after this tangent I'm about to take, we'll definitely hit that hour for this one, which is really funny because I thought we were going to hit 30 minutes tops on this one. Another note on scales in general. So people with scales, I'm talking about 1 out of 10 scales, 1 to 10 scales, 3 to 470 scales, A to Z scale, whatever you want, whatever scale you use. Most people use 1 out of 10 because most people are intelligent. So no, that's totally not true, by the way. Most people aren't intelligent. Most people are stupid, myself included. I'm not saying I'm better than anybody. I am totally not. I do this hour every week. I am not better than anybody. Unless you really like marbles, and you might think I'm amazing. But basically, like, most people are stupid, actually. But there's proof of that, like, every time I wake up and use my eyes. But that's a tangent on a tangent. Besides the point being, with scales, what tends to happen in general is that the dead average of the scale shifts upwards from 5 to about 6 or 7. That's true because, like, okay, next time you're doing a scale, okay, so next time you have a scale, you're doing a scale thing, and if you let's say you have friends that you know basically everything about them, you know what their preferences are, and you do a scale of something basic like sports teams or whatever. Yeah, maybe you man, what would be a good example? Let's just do scales, movies. Sure, movies. You just know their preferences in movies. You know what they like. You've heard them rip movies apart. You've heard them praise movies. You heard them being like, that was a decent movie. Next time you do that, I swear to God, ask them, give me a 1 out of 10 on these movies, and ask them a 1 out of 10 on their favorite movie, ask them a 1 out of 10 on their least favorite movie, and ask them a 1 out of 10 on 3 different movies that they've said that was all right. I guarantee you'll get a 10, you'll get a 1, and then you'll get 3 6s and maybe a 7. You will not get 3 5s because everyone kind of, even though people normally are more negative than positive on things, when it comes to scaling, if they don't hate something, it feels wrong to give it a 5 or below.
Right.
It's okay, but I don't hate this, and so this is okay. And because they know it's not a 10, and 10 is so hard to get to in their mind. They're I'll throw a 6 at it. Why not? Because you feel you're doing it a favor, right? 6, why not? But then that's where the scale shifts to. It shifts to 6. So right. I think that, in general, I understand that a 6 feels like the average, or feels even possibly bad if you really have bad bias. But I feel on this podcast, we've been pretty good at keeping the dead average at 5. We've been pretty good at that. I mean, I think we'll slip here and there. We'll be you know what, this event was okay. I'll give it a 7.
Yeah.
But because that still feels far away from perfection, because that's still 3 away from perfection. And technically, in a 10 scale, the dead average is 5.5. But it can shift that way, but I feel we've done a decent job. So when we say 6, we're saying just above average. When we say 5, we're pretty much saying dead average, but there was something maybe that stuck out that was a little more negative. So we're pretty decent at that, I'd say. Yeah. But I feel that happens a lot with scales. Just want to make that note.
Yeah. Sergey in the chat just echoed what I was thinking, right? How a large part of this is due to at least the grading system in America, where 70% or above is passing, everything else below that is failing. And so after a certain point, a 30 and a 20, they don't feel any different to you. They're both low failing grades, so anything below that is anything, they're all you just view them all the same. I would view a 0 on a test and a 50 on a test almost at relatively the same thing. And I think that's why people that transfers to rating systems and stuff. And I'm guilty of that too, just because I've been conditioned to see that sort of way of looking at the world. And so, but by doing that, it devalues the movies and stuff that you rate at 7 out of 10, because everything's a 7 or a 6 out of 10. And something that I try consciously to remember is a YouTube channel called Jogwheel. He's on movie reviews, and he has his 10 scale, and he has words next to each number that tell you what level of correlation. So a 5 out of 10 is an all right, a 6 out of 10 is good, 7 is cool, 8 is great.
To really establish that scale.
9 is
Why
awesome.
Is cool
10
higher
is amazing.
than good? That's weird.
Yeah, but
that's really weird.
I keep this picture on my computer just to remind myself every now and again, because sometimes when I rate things, I go back to the old school thought process. If it's all right or okay, then it's a 6 or a 7. It's well, no, it can be a 5 and it's still not bad. It doesn't, bad things are not just all 5s and below.
Yeah, a couple things on that. Okay, 2 things based off that. First of all, the reason, by the way, I don't know what people think about the whole grading scale of school in America, but there is a very good reason why 70 is considered failing in America, because it's totally not that hard to get a 70. It is, grading scales based on school and grading scales we use to rate things should be very, very different in our heads, because it's not... I mean, you're really not doing all right if you've spent every day of your life going to the same class, and then you take a test months later and you only get half of the things right. That really is not all right. It's totally not. Because if you're in school, that's the only thing you're doing. So I really think that the grading scale makes sense, and I don't think we should bias that when we rate other things out of the 10 scale. But don't get a 70, okay? I think it makes sense that we that for school we push like satisfaction to like 80% and up, because like if you're really putting the effort in at school, because that's something you're literally spending all your time doing, and I know school is 50% social and oh my god, who's dating who when we're all 12 anyway, so it doesn't really matter, but okay, fine. I mean, like, I get it, but like, you know, it's kind of the only thing you're doing, so you can get an 80. You totally can get an 80, even if you're not the smartest person, and if you're just not putting enough effort in, probably. So, and I mean, that might be unfair when you get to higher levels of school, but I'm talking like probably like middle high school and below, that's fair, and that's really how that gets ingrained into our brain.
You know, I can tell you from experience. In college, a large, like, you can. It's a lot of it's due to the professor you got and how you're being taught. So
college is a completely different cat. Also, meow. I just saw Lost Face in that. He hates me for that. Another quick analogy. So there's also that rating scale that people use for looks. You know, like when people are like, "Oh my God, she's a 10." I've said that before in my mind. Or like, "Bro, she was a 6, man." I mean, like when that scale also. That scale is like one of the most used scales, I'd say, that in the culture as far as like out of 10 scales. So that one also affects regular 10 scale bias, because let's be honest, if you're on that scale and you hear anything below a 7, your first thought is, I'm ugly. That's totally your thought. Don't even lie. It's true. So you're not gonna get a 5 and be like, oh, that means I'm all right. Yeah, I'm not the best, but I'm doing fine. You know, and then walk off feeling happy. No, you're gonna be like, oh my God, a 5? Ugh, Jesus.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like, let's be honest. If you get a 1, then man, hopefully you're just so ugly that you have something interesting. You're just so different looking that you actually are hot. Whatever. No one gets a 1 though. No one ever says to someone you're a 1 unless it's like your friends and they're joking. But which is another thing, no one ever gives anyone a 1, which means if you're getting a 4 or a 3, then that's usually people trying to be nice, but they think, I don't know, whatever. Basically what I'm saying is that scale is an 8 or above satisfaction thing. Like if you're a 7, you start to get like, ugh, but like 8 and above, you're like, okay, I can handle that. I can handle 8 or above. 7 and 6, you start to be like, maybe I should freaking brush my hair once in a while. Maybe it's me. But like, no one is really satisfied with anything below a 7 on that scale. But like, and most in an unbiased 1 out of 10 scale, you should be satisfied. Like, satisfactory means like average, and that's 5 you should be good with. So I don't know. So I just wanted to point out the bias that ate up the last 10 minutes of this hour.
We've had like 3 different analogies for this.
I just wanted to explore that for a second. We beat that one to death. But yeah, that's going to do it. We have one live chat question worth addressing. Marcus Manley says, Brand, you messed up the spelling of that so bad. Like that's not even close. I don't even know how you can mess that up. Like whatever. Switch the vowels and you're fine. But that just looks weird on paper. He says, Brandon, do you hate the Raspberry Racers because you were a Limers fan? I don't hate the Raspberry Racers. I actually put them on my fantasy, I think, this past
you did.
time. I hate Mini Maniacs. I hate Indigo Stars. And I hate like Blue Fastics or anything of that sort. I hate the Blue Fastics. I hope the Blue Fastics all just like get melted back to sand.
Jeez.
Write that down. I hope the Blue Fastics get all melted back to sand. I actually do like the color of the Blue Fastics, so I just hate the name by Fair. I don't hate the Raspberry Racers. I am a Limers fan, so there's the rivalry, but I'm also a loose Limers fan. I have a top 3, and again, the top 3, if you don't know, is actually it's changed a little bit, so you should be aware of it. So the top 3 stay the same: Crazy Cat's Eyes, Mellow Yellow, Limers. That will always be my top 3. The next 2 on that used to be Green Ducks and Gliding Glaciers. I have to be very honest with you right now. I love the Strixes and I love Owls, so it's now Strixes then Gliding Glaciers. The Green Ducks have dropped to 6, followed by, of course, 7 and 8 being very easily Savage Speeders or Rangers, because I respect those teams and I love those teams. And then you can kind of, the rest, whatever, you know. I mean, Momo will drop, maybe follow because of WAF. Whatever. But my top 5, that's my top 5. I'm going to say it again so it's very clear. Mellow Yellow, Crazy Cat's Eyes, Limers, and that top 3 unordered. Then you have Strixes, gliding glaciers, and then like I said before. So that's gonna do it for the show today. Waff, why don't you take us out? And we'll see you guys next week. We'll address the last event.
Yeah. All right then. Roll on, Marble sports fans.